Welcome back to Utah Stories. So again, we're talking about housing solutions, homeless solutions. Again, the Supreme Court ruled that public camping can be, people can't public camp anymore in cities. And so Salt Lake City's had its fair share of public camping, but you look at places like Los Angeles, Skid Row, Portland, Seattle, really big parts of those cities have been taken over by public encampments. I've been interviewing people along the Jordan River for the last 3-4 years since we started covering this. I want to play this clip of Lindsay. I sure hope I got her name right. She was such a nice woman to be able to talk to me. She's with her little dog who just had puppies. She's with her husband. I can totally identify why she's choosing to camp rather than go to the shelter. I want to play for you why she doesn't want to go to public housing. Her answer was really compelling. And Dale Keller, again, is with us on the program. And he's worked in the county office for 30 years for the health department. And now he's the executive director at Solutions Utah.
I was homeless from 2011 to 2018, and I came from suburbia at that time. I was Molly Mormon. I had no idea I had no idea this world that I was moving into. I lost, my husband got taken to jail, and I got thrown out of our house and went to stay with my uncle at the Siesta Motel, and that's when I met this whole other world that exists. And a lot of them, you'd be surprised how many of them are ex-military of some kind. I mean, probably 65% of them are ex-military, and a lot of them have a lot of them have mental problems. Most definitely self-medication.
A couple of things there to unpack. First of all, she's kicked out of her house. She's got her dogs. She's got her husband's in prison. A lot of people fall on really hard times. Now that this ruling's happened through the Supreme Court, what would be the best measure someone can take if they just find themselves, evicted from their home and they can't, there's just no place that they can go?
And I think, in fact, I would argue that for sure the majority of Utahns would be fine with their tax money supporting housing and giving people a hand up. But the housing first method, where we're just going to say, hey, carte blanche, here's housing, whatever, whenever, do what you want, no, that doesn't work. And this person would be the optimum candidate for the support for housing.
And she said she didn't want to go into that government housing because there is so much rampant drug use. Right. So if there was more accountability to the occupants, like you can get kicked out if you use drugs, it seems like that would be an obvious solution. Yeah. Do you have any idea what's preventing the mayor or the road home, Michelle Flynn, from kicking these people out when they're using drugs?
Well, homeless money is huge right now, and so folks, cottage industries are being built around that money. But things have changed now, Richard. In the last legislative session, Representative Tyler Clancy pushed through House Bill 298, which had a lot of very, very positive components in it. If you've ever been on a committee or a group where there's 30 or 40 people, a lot gets said, but nothing gets done. Mm-hmm. Well, now you've got a nimble group that's able to make decisions, and I would argue, and they've already met a couple of times, and I've listened to the meetings, and it's awesome.
Your colleague James Buchanan was on here, and he did an audit in I believe it was 2021 or 2020 of all the homeless services,
right,
and essentially found that institutional accountability is completely lacking. That there's just no connection to return on investment,
right.
And as you said, homelessness has become a cottage industry. Some people call it the homeless industrial complex.
Okay, I've heard that term,
but it's basically like right. there's an industry and people are getting rich. Mm-hmm. Like I pointed out, Michelle Flynn earns $150,000 and Wayne Niederhauser gets $250,000. It's a lot of money being shelled out to these people to find the solution, and So this new bill, I've got it up on my screen.
Mm-hmm.
We can show it. It's like you said, Tyler Clancy, Kirk Cullimore,
Right.
and has it really got teeth in it, in your opinion, to hold on to institutional accountability, to say if you're not solving this problem, if you're not creating fewer drug addicts, not more drug addicts, that you're actually going to take the money away? Do you see that happening?
I think so, because at the conference that you alluded to that Solutions Utah put on, as you know, the governor made a similar statement that there's going to be accountability specifically tied to state funds moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
And while, I can't get in his head, I would argue that he understands the teeth that HB 298 has that is going to require that, and the oversight committee for that is going to see that occurs. I mean, they're setting milestones for data recording that has never been in play before. It's just, here's the money, hope we have good outcomes from this, and next year here's some more money, and I hope we have better outcomes this year.
There's actual data being required
correct,
of these
right.
of these places,
and I believe that's the real beauty, not only the nimbleness of the oversight, but the accountability and data collection piece to that. And as the governor stated in that conference, if that doesn't happen, then we will find places such as the micro shelters and other locations where they are getting success and taxpayers are getting a bigger bang for their dollar.
Yeah. Yeah. And the big takeaway from that conference was the homeless services that are working the best receive the least government funding, and the ones that work the worst by far get by far the most government funding. And so why don't we just flip it on its head and give the money to the places where they're actually solving the problem?
And, I'm not going to, I would say that it's not so much about money, but it is that those that are having the best outcomes are also having accountability as a piece with their compassion and desire to help and improve people's lives. It's not just we'll take your problem, we'll run with it, we're going to help you find solutions to your problem, but we were also going to hold you accountable for promises and commitments that you've made. That piece has been missing.
Yeah.
I would argue as well that I don't know, Volunteers of America is an absolutely amazing organization, but I have been in the last 10 years or so and seen that private organization almost become a cabinet position in the Salt Lake City mayor's office, and that kind of doesn't work relative to tax dollars.
So
let's have an inspector, a third person, go in with an eye for a sense of safety and security and sanitation, but be able to have some regulatory oversight for that.
there's not been any.
No,
Really?
there's not.
That amazes me.
It's interesting. If you look at in state rules R392, you'll see some very interesting stuff. Like the state has a rule on amusement parks, on how they have to be run for safety, and rest areas and mobile home parks, but not congregate setting homeless shelters. And so
that's amazing. I did not know.
Yeah, and that's something that our organization is going to work with the legislation and legislators and attempt to get something passed in the next session. Another one, and there's a lot of pitfalls when you start talking about no camping, because nobody wants to say you can't have your kids, have a sleepover in the backyard with the neighbors, right? So there has to be tooled carefully so that it regulates what we're attempting to, and that is the illicit camping in parks and playgrounds and along the Jordan River. So that's something else that we would like to push as well.
So, and as far as like the near-term solution, you talk about sanctioned campgrounds. We don't have one outside of the micropod area. There's a lot of land where they could put one, and Steve Waldrop was on this program. He said one of his main initiatives is to take all of this excess land that entities like UTA have in the county and the city and utilize it in a better way, because you just look around Salt Lake, there's plenty of empty lots. Do you see that in the short term there's going to be any kind of sanction camp opening up as they start cracking down and like tightening the noose on public camping?
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so, because as I had stated earlier, city leaders in Mill Creek, Murray, West Valley, South Salt Lake have been pretty stringent on their no camping laws for the last several years. That has really exacerbated the problem in Salt Lake City.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can be on the Jordan River Parkway and you don't need to see a sign. I'm in South Salt Lake. Just looking, you're going to stop seeing tents. And okay, I'm
right
in West
at
Valley,
about
South
like,
Salt Lake,
yeah,
right?
1700 south.
There you go, or 21st.
Or 20,
right,
yeah, 21st actually.
And our homeless friends are aware of that as well.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think you guys are doing a good job. I think it's good to have solutions. I guess my only thing is the proof is in the pudding. I want to see how it pans out, because we've been talking about this for several years, and to see an actual solution that's both humane and compassionate, but also holds people accountable,
right,
and holds the institutions accountable. It just seems like there must be a lot of resistance, because it's just been a long time coming.
Yeah, Richard, if I might tell you, one compelling, maybe tipping point for me was right after COVID, as we're all trying to figure things out, right? I got a call from a leader, a manager of a rec center in West Salt Lake, or excuse me, the west part of Salt Lake City. And they were about to have the youth soccer league start the next day. And she was freaked out to go out in their soccer places and find out that they had tents and lean-tos tied to the soccer goals, but way, way more important or difficult than that was garbage and trash and lots of discarded syringes in the soccer field.
That's terrible.
And so after hours, several police officers and health department, we actually went through and kicked through the grass for 3 or 4 hours looking for syringes so that little kids could play soccer. And so there's a lot of unintended consequences and victims to this problems in our community. And so focus here is to find civil long-term solutions that have accountability.
Yeah. And I started Utah Stories like back in 2006, and my first video was about the Pioneer Park.
Yes, sir.
And that was kind of when the farmers market had been going a few years, but it was just getting big.
Right.
And the people at the park would just say, yeah, before we set up our tents, we have to look at or move all the syringes out of the way, because it was that was the drug park. It was all contained right there.
Right.
That's where you saw people using now, but now it's really spread out. It's a much more widespread problem, and it's extremely complicated. But I think that if our viewers are interested in getting more involved, you guys are at solutionsutah.com.
Correct.
And you have resources on how people can donate. And how do you help people get more informed about these issues? What do you suggest they learn about or read up on? It's like if you think you're going to solve something by yelling at the homeless people who are camping, or just thinking that it's always other people's problems. That's not the case. It's we all have to figure out what we can do to make the best out of it. So thanks so much for coming on, Del.
You're very welcome.
Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.
This is our issue that's almost out of Utah Stories magazine. This was our farm issue. We address how to support local farms, how to buy fresh produce, why fresh produce and farms are so important in Utah. And if you'd like to be a bigger part of Utah Stories and support our coverage, you can go to utahstories.com and subscribe to the magazine for $3 a month, or you can subscribe to our digital email newsletter for free, and we'll keep you posted about what solutions Utah is doing, what Steve Waldrip and the Utah Housing Authority Coalition is doing to solve the problem with affordable housing. We want to stay on top of these issues. And we have a really exciting announcement. We have a sponsor of this program now. It is the Other Side Academy. We love these guys. They just opened a donut shop in West Valley, and It's the Other Side Donuts, and it's called a social enterprise because they're using the academy to staff up the donut shop. And these guys are learning how to make gourmet donuts. They're working all day. They're learning how to be good employees, be productive citizens. And these are people who are former felons and drug addicts. And so if you're homeless and you're watching this program, wondering what in the world you can possibly do to solve your problems, go sit on a bench at the Other Side Academy. It's located at, Audrey's telling me 600 South and 6th East. Is that right? 700 East. Okay. But you can just go there and sign up, and you either get a job working at the thrift store or the moving company or the donut shop. They don't reject anybody. They'll always help you find a solution. So public camping is going to get really difficult. And I feel a lot of compassion for folks who are out there, especially in this heat, who are going to get more harassment by the cops. Sorry, 100 South, 700 East. There we go, is the Other Side Academy. There's a bench. You just sit there and they will listen to you and they'll help you. And so I just can't stress enough, that is the solution to the problem of what do I do now? It's not, and we get a lot of smart aleck comments. Oh, I'm signing up for slavery. I'm going to become their indentured servant. It is a 2-year program and it is intense, but it works. They have a 95% success rate. Unlike the Odyssey Homes and the other 90-day programs that don't work, this actually works. And so I can't stress enough what an amazing program it is. And we are so pleased to have them as a sponsor. All right. So with that, we will be coming out with episodes every two a week for the next 4 weeks at least. And so click on the subscribe button, subscribe to our channel, like, share this video. And thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.